Why do people remain in abusive relationship? £1 million question. Welcome back to Common Sense, where we apply common sense to daily happenings. Nana, welcome.
Hi,
Well, bright colors,
I know, right?
matching yellow, eh? Our wardrobe is in sync.
Yeah, it has.
Why do people remain in abusive relationship? You're a lawyer, so you must have heard a lot of tales.
Honestly, it's a valid question. I think there's marriage reasons. Sometimes there is the whole idea of, is anyone gonna want me? They feel like that's the best they can do.
Okay.
There's also if the abuser is maybe more financially stable.
Okay.
That can also pressure people.
Or they're the breadwinner?
Yeah, that can pressure people to stay.
Mm.
If there are kids involved, people feel like, have to endure and stay because of the kids. Exactly. So I think that there's like loads of like varied reasons, and also sometimes comes down to just plainly being in love.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You're giving a lot of answers to why people want to stay. But typically, I'm not asking you to discuss any cases that you've come across. On average, will it be the financial side? It bears heavy on maybe the person who's the perpetrator, the alleged perpetrator, is the one with all the bag.
Yeah. I think that always plays such a fundamental.
So would that not be a failure on the system, on the state to protect the other person they abused?
But then also I think people forget that, especially when it comes to domestic abuse. One, it happens within the private sphere. So a lot of the times, unless and until one party speaks out about it, you don't know that it's happening. And there's also the added thing of, now I think there's more awareness and people are more vocal about it, and even like understanding like the different types of abuse, not necessarily have to be physical, but sometimes people don't even identify that what I'm going through is abuse. So, because if you're not being punched up,
you wouldn't know. So that for me, I think in my line of work, I'm a social worker.
Yeah.
In my line of work, I think that's the main one. I think that's why over time they've tried to change the definition. Yeah. I think it's moved from abuse to violence. Is it domestic violence?
Yeah,
right?
Domestic violence.
Or is it the other way around? It's domestic violence, right?
I still think it. I know people use both terms interchangeably.
Yeah, so it cuts across what people use. So I guess it's also not knowing whether you're experiencing that.
Yeah.
And even when I've been to trainings on these subject matters, it startled me to a point I'm like, that would mean I'm an alleged perpetrator. I'm laughing about it, but I'm telling you the truth.
Yeah.
Because it goes down to, for example, you two operate an account together.
Yeah.
But you're the one doing the spending for the whole house.
Yeah.
Not that any argument has ever come out of it, but it's just being that way. And it's almost, where's the nuance? The little nuance is there, like, is that financial abuse? Is that, what is that?
But I think that's more to do with like the financial control aspect of it.
Yeah, so financial control.
Yeah, because I think you can have a joint account, but it depends on the parameters. If only one party has the ability to like draw the funds out, then there's an issue, And I think, this was like years, I remember this quite a number of years ago, when I used to I know I've moved away from that area of law, thank God. But I will never forget this case where the wife had decided that she wanted to leave the marriage, and the husband cancelled every single card. Oh
boy. Was he in his name alone?
But they had a joint account. But once again, because she had been oblivious about everything that was going on, he handled everything. Like she just had a card that she had access to. Okay. And he blocked everything. Because
that's true and true.
Yeah. Exactly.
Abuse, yeah.
But, and she was just so helpless. And obviously, like, I was sat there and I was like, oh, come on. If this is a joint bank account, just go to the bank.
Yeah, but would the bank deal with you if the bank would not have dealt with her, except she told them what was happening? She was experiencing domestic violence. And
but I think it didn't even like cross her mind. Because she was like, he manages everything.
Yes.
So she'd always accepted that he managed everything. So it's only when at that point when they'd fallen out that she realized, oh, like I don't know where any of this stuff is. Like, and there's some people that are in marriages and that's how they navigate. And by all means, if that works for you, I'm like I say, I'm not like, if it works for you, then that's fine. But once again, you also need to know the type of partner that you're with. And I always say that, you know what, when everything is good and you're in love, yeah, it's all well and good and great. But I think it's quite interesting to see how your partner treats other people when they're not on good terms with them, because you're going to be on the same brunt of that behavior if anything ever goes south. That's what I always say. And I think sometimes, you know how sometimes, especially like on social media, people make comments of, oh, I want to date somebody who's like mean to everybody but only nice to me. And I'm like, like, why would you want that?
You're inviting disaster.
Like WTF, like I just don't understand, because that means that if they're mean to everybody else, imagine if you fall out with them.
You'll be treated like everybody else.
Exactly.
So I get that aspect of people stay because they'll remain in that relationship because one, they've not done things for themselves up to that moment. They feel very inadequate, feel very helpless, feel very independent on the other person. And yes, that, and there's probably they've been physically threatened, physical intimidation. If you leave, I'm gonna kill you. There's that extreme as well.
Yeah, there's that extreme.
Or if you leave,
I'll kill
I'm
myself.
gonna expose you.
There's even if you leave, I'll kill myself.
That is then blackmail, right?
Yeah,
is that blackmail?
I feel like that's like manipulation.
Is that what blackmail is called? Manipulation, sorry. Yeah. That's being manipulated.
Yeah.
If you leave, I'll kill myself.
Yeah. And I know people that have stayed in situations because their partner,
or if you leave, I will expose to the world who you really are, and I'll take the kids. I'll fight you to the end, I'll take the kids. So they start using the kids as a bargaining chip.
Yeah.
So all of that. And it goes for both sexes, but I think majority of it will be of the alleged, of the abused ones will be women mostly. Yeah. So again, not knowing whether you being in an abusive relationship is one reason to remain there anyway.
Yeah.
Until you open your mouth and start talking about it. And I think from not experience, but from what I've heard is people start talking, they'll be like, oh, I didn't know that was abuse until they went to so-and-so training. And that's when they realize, Jesus, I've been abused all this time.
Yeah.
And they then open their ears, open their eyes to hear and see more. I was in another training one time, and a lady said, my husband has left me since, but dead or alive? Still alive. But we finally separated, but he still controls me from outside. And I was expecting her to say, his talks are everywhere. No, that's not what he was doing. What he did was racked up a lot of credit card debts and just loans on her name before he left. So he borrowed and applied for credit cards while he was still at the address, bought on the wife's name. So after he left, she approached banks and they said, it's you, it's your name.
Yeah.
It's not like you're dead or he's dead, it's your name. So she was saying, he's still controlling me 10 years after we ended because I'm paying all the bills. And also that, I never thought about that.
Yeah, no, I didn't actually. That's so vindictive. Though.
Yeah, but he deliberately did it.
Yeah.
And he went scot-free because how are you going to prove that he
hard.
actually did it?
And honestly, especially these days, you know how easy it is to apply for a credit card online, and it's just they just send it to your house.
Yeah.
So imagine if.
So they sent it. He picked it up because she was always
working. Of course, yeah. And he knows.
And
he knows everything about you.
Yeah. So there's a lot of reasons why people will stay. They don't know. The fear of the unknown is a big one.
Yeah.
And the help they get out there, especially from the States, is very, very, very inadequate.
Extremely inadequate.
I used to be in that system where I just say, if it was possible for me to tell the woman, go find help somewhere, man, this is rubbish we're putting you, even putting you in harm's way. So some of them see that and they'll be like, you know what, it's best I remain there and take a few punch here and there.
Exactly,
where I'm safer than go be in this hostel where there are drug addicts, crack addicts, drug users, and all the mad people there.
Yeah.
And they keep, there's no stability to be out there because you and your children can be pushed from place to place. Yeah. And they're very, very unsavory places. They're not like secure places where they, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I've had a lady come to me just personally outside of work in the last year. The so-called safe places they've been sending her to, somehow the dude she's running away from finds out. Who's telling him? It's not really safe. Somehow he's finding out. So I think she did a bit of digging. She then found out it was both lawyers from both sides. Our lawyer's pro bono. The other side have a paid lawyer. They talk about this things because you're meant to share this information, but I think you're supposed to be bound by some data. I don't know. You tell me some covenant, but that lawyer is spilling to his own client. And he's turning up at the address and he's making them move out. And he's doing that deliberately, not because he wants to see them. That's what we're figuring out, putting one and one together. He's doing that as part of the whole manipulative process. Just shows up, they'll move you. So I'm making your life
Of course.
miserable.
Yeah, and difficult.
Don't have stability until you decide, I'm better off with him.
Yeah.
Please. I want to go back.
Because it's tactic, isn't it?
So there's a lot of stuff that will make people want to remain in abusive relationship.
Yeah.
For the dudes, the flip side will be they don't talk about it because their mates will laugh at them.
Yeah.
Are you saying you've been physically abused at home?
Yeah.
Are you saying your wife is doing this to you, your partner is doing this to you? Nah, nobody wants to hear about
I don't even
man
think the thing is that I don't even think a lot of men associate when they're in like domestic abuse situations, they don't identify it as domestic abuse for a very odd reason, and they also don't speak about it. So it's all very much like swept under the carpet, and sometimes it kind of has to be somebody saying like, this isn't normal behavior, and this is not, like, you shouldn't have to accept this. Only then, and also I guess also there's a shame as well that plays
there's a
role.
stigma attached to that,
and I think from an ego perspective as well. It's like, as a man, how do you go out and say that my partner, who is, if that's on the assumption that you're heterosexual, that your partner is doing X, Y, Z, and they're like abusing you. And I think because of the shame, but once again, I don't know where the shame comes from.
I think it's just society tells a male child to man up and chin up, stiffen up the upper lip, and
True.
not talk about these things. And you get pushed around. And from school as well, they pick all of those things from school where you're in the playground. I've been very fine to talk about women beating me up anyway. But it was when I was in school. I can remember Iyabo was one. I forgot Bamidele's sister. So my dudes know Bamidele. He was strong. The sister was strong. That girl will whip you, man. That girl used to beat me in primary school. So no girls beat me in secondary school because I went to all male school. But primary school, yes, there was one or two girls who would beat me up. Then there was this girl, my friend's elder sister, who would do arm wrestling with you. She would whip nonsense out of it. Imagine if I was married to that one, that would be beating every day. Go wash the dishes, Jude. I'll be like, no, I'll be like, let's do some arm wrestling. Let's do some arm wrestling. Huh? So yes, that's where the stigma comes from. When you're not comfortable enough to talk about a girl in your class who was able to whip your ass, I'm fine with that. I don't have a problem with that because I don't see it like that. I see it as that human is stronger than you. So it's like saying I should go fight Laila Ali. No matter how male I am, she's going to knock me out very quick. Muhammad Ali's daughter, who's a famous and professional boxer. She's woman, I'm man, but she will knock me out still. So gender don't come there at all.
Yeah.
And I'll be putting my hands up and running out very quick and say, look, my boxer wife want to kill me. But yeah, I guess for it's a difficult situation. Like we were saying, just recounting, there's not a lot of help out there. There's not a lot of awareness out there.
No, there
and
isn't.
In some communities as well, not stereotyping any community, it's just the norm.
That's the
Your
norm.
dad,
Exactly.
My dad always beat my mom.
Yeah. And I think we also forget that in communities where it's deemed as the norm, you even trying to go out and speak about it, you're like, people are like,
the pariah.
Like, be quiet. What are you saying? Like, we all went through it.
We went through it.
Yeah.
Why is you different?
Exactly. So when it's something is within if it's deemed as a norm, and when you're speaking out, everyone around you is telling you to be quiet because they went through the same thing and they survived. They did not die. Then you're also put in that precarious situation of starting to then doubt, am I overreacting?
I see.
Or is there something wrong with me? Because if all the people around me seem to have endured this, why can't I then also do the same? So it's quite a I'm trying to think of the word to use. it's an unfortunate situation to be in, and I possibly cannot imagine like all of the different things that might pressurize somebody in that situation to be like, you know what, I'm better off being in an abusive situation than to be out there on my own. Because even in order for you to make that decision, that in itself is quite a tough one.
It is.
To be able to decide to say, you know what, I'm better off staying in this abusive situation, which I know is detrimental to my health, than for me to just go out and start out on my own, or I don't know, go out and seek support, whatever that support might look like. It is difficult. And I think it's even harder if also you're isolated. And that's
and that's another form of abuse as well in its own. You're sort of isolated from your family. You guys move far away from them. Friends are restricted coming to see you.
Yeah, because that's a form of abuse that people don't really like. Because they always say that sometimes people will isolate you from the people that love you, and then it becomes harder.
Yes, and they do it subtly. They tell you, we don't need them. Let's just do our own thing. Let's go far from the family meddling, and that's just a setting ground for everything, setting the whole stage ready for that. And then you were far away from help, making you feel inadequate as well. You're the cause of all the problem. Your family don't want you. You're the black sheep of the family, as they say, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So all of that is just to set the whole scene ready for it to be very difficult for you to leave. But I guess on top of all of that list is finances. Because you live in a society where you really can't do anything without finance.
No, you can't. And I think I don't know, but I don't know what the stats are. But in my mind, I would probably think that finances is probably one of the, or if it's not one, it would be up there, being the most overbearing reason as to why people stay.
It makes sense though.
It does.
If the alleged perpetrator is the sole breadwinner, they have a job, they keep their job, and they earn all the money for the upkeep of the house, of the home, and everyone. You don't want to upset that. Exactly. And you've not done anything for the past 10 years, and now this is happening. It's going to be very difficult for you to want to leave that, because how do you start? Where do you start from?
Exactly.
Where do you really begin? How do you start?
And also, I always say that, although, like, you know, in the UK they say, oh, they've got all these, like, you can get like a non-molestation order, what's the other one, occupation order, all of these like things that they say that it's available to you to exclude the perpetrator from the home, and obviously to get an order where if they molest you, there's like they can go to jail. The hurdle to get through those. It's
not like it happens.
The amount of evidence
seconds,
that you need.
Yes.
It's also then another thing. And bearing in mind that, especially with cases bearing in mind that there's a reason why domestic violence is underreported. So they expect you to have all these evidence of things that we know that in most scenarios are not reported.
Having walked on the other side of the state, I can tell you categorically that 99% of the support there is just rubbish.
Really?
So yeah, it is rubbish. They signpost you to the one that's been abused. They signpost them to organizations in the community, and those ones are very understaffed and very underfunded. And they tell you bluntly, look, I don't want to be mentioning their names, there are loads of them. They tell you, oh, so sorry, we haven't picked up the case, we don't have any staff, we don't have the money, we're run by volunteers. And you go, look at this place, for example, where we sat.
Yeah.
If I brought a woman who was fleeing domestic violence into this place, she's going to feel the warmth immediately.
Yeah.
The colors are there. There's a sofa. There's heating. There's lights. There's a bathroom there. There's kitchen. There's kettle. She will feel the warmth from that door, even if she's coming to this small space with 3 children.
Yeah.
She will feel safe. Like, I think this is home for us for now.
Yeah.
But when we send them to places, we're sending them to a run-down hotel or run-down building, run by another rogue landlord. Broken bottles everywhere, drug paraphernalia. I'm not joking. not even discreet place, and you sending them there with children. The first thing the woman does is burst into tears. The place I'm fleeing is better than this 2 million times. And they turn back and they go back to get bruised again. No joke. It's no lie. It's there. It's true. So your services will testify to that. And I've seen those people like, you wonder why people don't come talk to you. Sometimes you even send your referrals. The states withdraw them. So they do their statutory duty by doing the team around the family, trying to help the perpetrator, the alleged perpetrator, and the one who's been abused and the children. But the bulk of work, they want these sister agencies out there, which are mostly run by voluntary, to do the work. That's the outsourcing of what states should do. They outsource it to charities, give them fund. But those ones are overburdened because they got so much caseload.
There's so many,
There's lack of workers. And you send the referrer to them, they quickly send it back and said, it doesn't meet our threshold. No joke. It does not meet our threshold. So you're in that system just going like that. It gets tiring too. So it's not just the alleged perpetrator being manipulative or exploitative of the situation. It's also the state not stepping up to really help.
Yeah.
When they need to help until the inevitable happens.
Yeah.
And that's the case. That's what happens. Because the places I've seen where they've sent people go, the so-called hostels and all, they were horrible.
Really?
No joke. I've escorted a few people to some of these places, and I myself, as a social worker, I was disappointed in my profession. I was like, is this the best we can do for somebody fleeing that? And that's why most people don't bother. They'll tell you, no, I want to stay. Thank you. Because I know what your help looks like. I know what your support looks like. So I think, and their families are hard done by as well. It's not like families, they have mansions where they can say, oh, come back, your room is still there for you with 3 children. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I always say that it's not like back home. I feel like back home, there's always somewhere you can go and sleep.
But even back home, that there will be somewhere to sleep. People are not taking advantage to. They're dying in their marriages these days more.
This is what I was going to say.
So that becomes a stigma thing for the woman.
I think back home there's a stigma of leaving your marriage.
Yeah, the stigma, especially for the woman.
For the woman,
this one, Mama Osage's daughter, she remained in her marriage. Even though when the husband was beating her, things changed. That pastor prayed for them. Why are you coming back after just 2 months? No daughter of man would do that. And then you don't come and the next thing they bring you in a box.
It is a stigma.
It is a stigma for the outside, so that's why people don't go. Well, there's no space to accommodate you. That's why we rely on hostels.
That's a valid truth. No, there isn't any space to
accommodate. How can you tell a lady who's experiencing abuse in London that we can only house you in Wales? She's never been to Wales, never been outside of London in her whole 35 years. But you're saying gladly to this person who found a place, we'll take you to Wales. Like, I can't go to Wales. Everything is built around me in this area. Yeah. You'll be like, well, you say you were fleeing violence. It don't seem like you were fleeing. That's how we talk sometimes. If you were fleeing violence, you will take the next refuge. How is a village in Wales the next refuge for that woman? Tell me. No, tell me.
No, it's sad.
You built your life around here. You went to school around this place. Yeah. And you're taking me to a safe place. I have to leave the whole country to Wales. That in itself is emotionally damaging to this person and that their children that they're removing from a very familiar area. This is what happens, and we wonder why people tend to stay in that abusive relationship. They don't have any options. It comes down right to that. No options. Nobody is listening to them. No one will believe them. And also the stigma, like, my relationship is failed. I'm not the only one going through this. At least 2 of my friends said they were slapped around the other day. Or their husband does the same thing, but they're moving on. I might as well stay. He's threatening me. He would do this, he would do that. So it's a sad one.
It is.
For both genders.
Yeah, for both genders. Yeah, very sad.
It's a very sad one. But in wrapping up, I really don't have a solution other than to say, talk about it, seek for help, and friends and family should be willing to help too. Because if you don't help, it could just be the last time you really hear from them. And then you'll regret it, said, had I known, man, I should have stepped up and helped.
Yeah.
And the state should do better. You don't just remove a woman fleeing domestic violence from London and go drop them in some place in Sheerness. To do what? They're vulnerable and you're putting them in a more vulnerable and precarious situation.
Yeah.
Anyway, we ended up for today.